Dawn crept over the valley with a pale, trembling light, the kind that made old memories feel sharper than they should. Cole Harrington stepped outside, expecting the same lonely silence that had lived on his ranch since Mary died. But today something shattered that stillness. His horse stood unusually still, ears pointed toward a shape curled beside its legs. A young widow, dust-covered and trembling, lay sleeping as if the earth had swallowed her strength. Her presence cut through Cole's grief like a sudden gasp of air in a drowning man's lungs. As he knelt, her breath trembled through cracked lips, and she whispered a name, soft, fragile, and impossibly familiar. "Mary, don't leave me." Cole froze, blood surging to his ears. No stranger in this world had spoken his wife's name in years, let alone begged it with the same desperation he once carried in the months after losing her. He shook the woman gently, unable to decide whether fear or something deeper was rising inside him. When her eyes fluttered open, he felt the shock of a ghost brushing the living world. She jolted awake, scrambling backward in terror before collapsing again. Cole raised his hands, voice steady. "You're safe. I won't harm you." She blinked rapidly, confusion clouding her expression as if her mind still wandered between nightmare and waking. He helped her sit, offered water, and waited while her breathing steadied. When she finally spoke, her voice wavered with exhaustion. Her name was Elena Ward, and she had walked for days through wilderness and grief strong enough to crush any ordinary soul. Inside the cabin, as she warmed by the fire, Elena recounted her story in fragments that sounded too painful to speak aloud. Raiders had struck her settlement without warning. Her husband fought to protect her, and died in the chaos. She fled into the night with nothing but a broken heart and hope she barely believed in. Cole listened quietly, fighting the ache that tightened his chest, not for her husband, but for the familiar way tragedy had carved its marks into her voice. Loss recognized loss. When she glanced at Mary's sketches on the wall, she paused with a strange look. "She feels familiar," she whispered, tracing the air near the drawings. Cole forced a smile, though the echo of Elena whispering Mary's name outside gnawed at him. He finally asked why she had spoken it. Elena frowned. "I dreamed of a woman holding my hand. I didn't know her. She said I'd be safe soon." She looked at the drawings again. She looked like her. Cole's pulse hammered with a mix of fear and wonder he couldn't name. Elena tried helping with chores, but the fear in her movements gave away the truth. She wasn't just running from danger, she was haunted by it. She kept glancing toward the hills, hands trembling whenever the wind shifted. "You shouldn't have helped me," she said more than once. "Trouble follows me. Pain follows me." Cole shook his head. "You're not alone here." He didn't tell her he wasn't sure if he said it for her, or for himself. For the first time in years, loneliness felt interrupted. That night over supper, the silence between them softened. Elena ate slowly, as if still unsure the food wouldn't be taken away. Cole watched her gather enough courage to meet his eyes. "I don't remember the last time I felt warmth," she whispered. Something fragile and powerful passed between them. But when the cabin creaked under the shifting night wind, she flinched hard enough to spill her cup. Cole reached across the table, steadying her hand. "No one can hurt you here," he said. "Not while you're under my roof." When he led her to the guest room, she hesitated in the doorway, gripping his sleeve. "If those men come," her voice cracked. "Don't fight for me. They'll kill you too." Her fear was so raw it felt alive in the air between them. Cole shook his head slowly. "Running isn't in my blood." She stared at him like someone witnessing a miracle they couldn't trust. When she finally slept, Cole lingered outside her door, wondering why protecting her felt like honoring something Mary left unfinished. Sleep didn't come easily. He sat by the fire, staring at the blue shawl Mary once wore, still folded neatly as if waiting. The night pressed heavily against the windows, but Cole's mind returned again and again to the impossible moment Elena whispered Mary's name. Dreams didn't borrow from the dead. Strangers didn't describe loved ones they never met. Something bigger, stranger, or maybe kinder was at work. For the first time since Mary's death, Cole wondered if the world still whispered to those willing to listen. At dawn, Elena's scream shattered the quiet. Cole rushed into her room, finding her trembling violently, eyes wide with terror. "They found us," she gasped. "I saw them in my dream, the torches, the horses, the masks. They're coming." Cole held her until her shaking eased, repeating that it was only a dream. But when he stepped outside to clear his mind, his chest tightened. Fresh hoofprints, 3 horses, cut through the frost near the boundary fence. And they weren't from his land. He spent the morning reinforcing the barn, checking ammunition, sharpening tools he hadn't touched since Mary passed. Elena watched him, trembling. You think they'll come? Cole didn't bother lying. And if they do, they picked the wrong place. Tears filled her eyes. Why risk your life for me? Cole hesitated. Because something in him believed he wasn't saving a stranger. He was answering a call left unfinished by the one woman he loved most. While gathering blankets, Elena found the blue shawl Mary used to wear. She froze, clutching it with trembling fingers. Cole, her voice fell to a whisper. This is the woman I saw. The one who told me to come here. The one who said you had enough heart left to save me. Cole felt his world tilt. Elena had never met Mary, but described her perfectly, the warmth in her eyes, the way she cupped another's face, the softness in her presence. It was impossible, and yet it felt more real than anything since Mary died. Before he could speak, the earth trembled with distant thunder, hooves pounding hard against dry soil. Elena's face drained of color. No, they found me. Cole stepped onto the porch, rifle firm in his hands. 3 riders cut through the horizon, masked, armed, and moving fast. Elena grabbed his arm in terror. Please, hide. Don't fight for me. Cole glanced back at her, eyes steady with a promise he didn't fully understand until this moment. I lost one woman fate brought into my life, he said quietly. I won't lose another. The riders closed in with the slow, predatory confidence of men who believed nothing in the world could stop them. Cole stepped off the porch, planting his boots firmly in the dust as the wind dragged Elena's frightened breath behind him. The leader halted just a dozen paces away, mask pulled low, rifle strapped to his saddle. We're looking for a woman, he said, voice dripping with cruelty. She ran from something that belongs to us. Cole didn't flinch. No one here belongs to you. The air snapped tight like a pulled wire. The leader tilted his head, amused. Brave, but stupid. He gestured to his men, who began circling like wolves around a wounded doe. Inside the cabin, Elena pressed her hands against her mouth, trying to stay silent, tears slipping down her cheeks. Cole raised his rifle, not aggressively, but with the steady certainty of a man who'd already lost everything once and refused to lose again. You're not taking her. The leader's grin vanished. Then you're dying today. He reached for his gun, but Cole fired first. Chaos erupted. Dust exploded beneath hooves, gunfire cracked through the valley, and Cole moved with a precision born from years of ranch work and the desperate instinct to protect. One rider fell hard from his horse, another fired wildly toward the porch. Cole ducked behind a water trough, bullets splintering the wood behind him. Inside, Elena screamed his name, but Cole kept firing, driving the men back. The bandits hadn't expected resistance, certainly not from one lone rancher fighting with the strength of someone guarding more than just a stranger. The leader retreated behind his horse, shouting orders as fear began to slip into his voice. He fired again, grazing Cole's arm, but Cole barely felt it. Rage and purpose fueled him. One clean shot knocked the second rider down. The last man standing panicked and spurred his horse away, leaving the leader exposed and alone. Cole stepped out, wounded arm hanging at his side, rifle aimed straight at the man who had hunted Elena across half the frontier. You're done, Cole said, voice steady despite the blood dripping down his wrist. The leader's eyes flickered to the cabin, then back at Cole. She's worth more than you know. We weren't after her husband. We were after her. Cole tightened his grip. Why? The man smirked despite the blood on his chin. Because she saw something she shouldn't have. Something we'd kill anyone to keep quiet. Before Cole could demand more, the leader lunged for his hidden pistol, but a thunderous shot cracked through the air. The leader collapsed, staring at the porch in disbelief. Elena stood there, rifle shaking in her hands. Her entire body trembled, but her eyes held a fierce, unbroken clarity Cole had never seen in her before. She didn't lower the rifle until she was sure the threat was gone. Then her knees buckled, and Cole rushed forward, catching her before she hit the ground. She sobbed into his chest, not from fear this time, but from the overwhelming relief of finally being free. Cole held her close, ignoring the sting of his wound, feeling the weight of everything shift around them. The nightmare was finally over. They buried the bodies far from the ranch, under the shade of a canyon ridge where the wind would scatter their memory. Elena stood quietly beside Cole, clutching Mary's shawl around her shoulders. I didn't want to kill anyone, she whispered. You saved my life, Cole answered gently. And maybe I saved yours. She looked up at him, eyes shimmering with gratitude and something softer, something that wasn't fear anymore. For the first time since they met, she didn't look like someone waiting to run. In the days that followed, the ranch grew warm again. Elena helped mend fences, fed the horses, and tended to Cole's wound with hands that learned steadiness again. They shared stories by lantern light, stories of loss, of love, of dreams buried under grief. And with every passing night, the emptiness inside Cole loosened its grip. Every time Elena laughed, a quiet, tentative sound at first, it felt like a small miracle blooming in a place he thought was barren forever. One night, as storm clouds gathered on the horizon, Elena stood under the porch light, staring at Mary's shawl in her hands. Do you think she really led me here? She asked softly. Cole stepped beside her, watching the wind ripple through the fields. I think love reaches further than we understand, he said. Maybe she didn't want either of us to live alone. Elena turned to him, tears in her eyes, but this time they weren't from sorrow. They were from the warmth of a future she never thought she'd feel again. The storm broke, rain falling in heavy, cleansing sheets. Cole moved closer, lifting the shawl to place it gently over Elena's shoulders. She reached for his hand, fingers trembling slightly. You saved me long before today, she whispered. You gave me a place to breathe again. Cole touched her cheek, heart pounding with a feeling he had shut away for so long. You brought life back to this home, he said. And to me. The rain softened, leaving the world washed clean. Seasons shifted. Spring brought wildflowers across the valley, and Elena's laughter filled the ranch like music. Cole built her a small garden behind the house, and she repaired Mary's old rocking chair so it faced the sunrise. They honored the past without letting it chain their futures. Some evenings, Elena would rest her head against Cole's shoulder, and he'd feel, for the first time in years, not haunted, but whole. One quiet morning, as the sun painted gold across the fields, Elena stood beside him on the porch. Cole, she whispered, I want to stay here, if you want me to. He turned to her slowly, heart full, eyes soft. I don't want this ranch without you. She stepped into his arms, and for the first time, their embrace felt like a promise, not a comfort. A new beginning, not a mending of wounds. Their story didn't erase their pasts, it carried them. They built a life where grief was honored, but no longer ruled them. Elena planted Mary's favorite flowers by the riverbank. Cole carved a new rocking chair for Elena to sit in during the long summer evenings. The ranch, once silent with loss, grew full of warmth and purpose. And on nights when the wind whispered through the cottonwoods, Cole felt certain Mary's spirit lingered, content, maybe even proud. The day Cole finally asked Elena to stay forever, he didn't need grand gestures. He simply took her hands, sunlight pouring around them, and said, this place was never home without someone to share it with. Stay. As my partner. As my heart. Elena's tears shone like morning dew. I thought I lost everything, she whispered. But you were the home I didn't know I was searching for. She kissed him with the quiet certainty of someone who had found safety, love, and destiny in the same man. And so they built a new future, not by forgetting, but by healing beside each other. The ranch flourished, the sorrow faded into memory, and every morning began with gratitude for a life neither of them thought they'd find again. Cole found love after heartbreak. Elena found peace after terror. And together, they wrote the kind of ending life rarely gives, one shaped by courage, fate, and a love strong enough to bring two broken hearts back to life.